Much better.
So yeah, I would. I'll see if we can think of from Miami Dade, and everyone else. Even though I think we'll be fine, I think more. I don't think there's some challenge coming from it. I go through that. Do you want to be home?
Everything is up. That's taking.
No.
That's every 4 years.
We'll start in about 10 minutes. I need everyone in their seats. My legislators. here, right after this tape right here.
You see? There he is.
That makes it tempting. Hey, Cheryl, Kelly Ralston. How are you?
First meeting yesterday? I hear you don't live in the Keys anymore, Cheryl.
She's a mom. She's up there with the big. Yes. Okay. Well, did you talk to him? See him in Alamorada? Yeah. We should. I can help facilitate that. Yeah. I'll text you.
Where'd you move to? That's on the West Coast? Oh, Jupiter.
Well, you're in love with it. I'm speaking up there as well. I gotta make sure you're in town. It's a great philanthropic giving in a lot of areas. Both sound very generous.
Well, I know I was there last year because my daughter got there. She married a West Palm Resort. And they did the wedding, was in June. They have a venue there for weddings.
And again, I've talked.
And I fell in love with her.
And you go, this is everyone.
What made you leave the Keys? Oh, yeah.
But I think, well, I think Shorty's taking that house because she's got a place.
Miami,
Yeah, did she sell?
By the way, I couldn't believe that I was and won. What? Oh my God, I was like visible. So I just spent the day, I was telling them I spent the day Tuesday with my husband. Fishing. She told me. She was every one of our council members, if you ever went on our webpage, they're all 80-year-old men.
It's insane.
She just went on and on. And she's like, look, I'm not sure that I know what I'm talking about. I said, I needed to do something. And you know her, she's a good person.
And you know what? I know. before that, I started at 5:04.
No.
That's awesome.
Noah, good to see you.
Noah, good to see you again. Not as much as fun as I
Yeah, I was shocked.
Can I have like 3 of you on this side to balance out? And then everybody else behind this tape right here. I'm no Charlie. Right here. Yeah, you guys could like be like
You know,
like this, like
stand under
facing the audience. Yeah. Alright, can I get you guys behind this tape right here? Can I get you more around this side?
You don't have Key Biscayne in your district, right? Hey.
Well, good morning. Good to see you guys. It's great to be back on Key Biscayne. We're here with a great announcement on a beautiful day. The traffic was what you'd expect, I guess, in Miami. We probably should have budgeted a little bit more for that, but it is what it is. We're joined here by our DEP Secretary Shawn Hamilton. We have the Vice Chairman for South Florida Water Management District, Scott Wagner. Cheryl Meads is also on our South Florida Water Management District Governing Board. Eric Eichenberg, Everglades Foundation CEO. Kelly Ralston from the Conservation and Public Policy for Bonefish and Tarpon Trust. Noah Wallenstein, former DEP Secretary, now Chairman of the Biscayne Bay Commission. Adam Blaylock, Deputy Secretary for Ecosystem Restoration and member, Biscayne Bay Commission. Of course, Senator Ileana Garcia. Senator, I guess Anna Maria is not here, but we do have our new Senator, Senator Alexis Calatayud. So thank you and congratulations. We've also got Representative Alex Rizzo. Is this was your second term now or third? Second? Okay. And Basabi, the Republican Miami Beach, is now the representative right here. Not a lot of people were predicting that, although I knew he was going to win on Election Day because we follow these things and we kind of know what we're doing. But we've been really excited to see some great new people coming into the legislature now after this most recent election, and particularly down here in South Florida. I mean, you had some really great election victories, and so I know they're going to be able to do a lot and be able to produce a lot. And, you know, if you do good work, the people respond. Ileana, what was your, you won by how many votes your first time?
34.
And then how many points percentage you just win by?
Over 20.
20. So, you know, you go. That was the same with us. You know, we went for, you know, we did 33,000 in 18, did 1.5 million margin this time. I mean, it's just, you do it how you do it. So we're glad to be here at Biscayne Bay. This is a very important resource for the state of Florida. It's the largest estuary in our state. Of course, it has a direct connection to Florida's coral reef. And as many of you know here down in South Florida, it's an important economic driver for the region. We have the largest passenger port in the world. Of course, it's an international sailing destination. It's also been boats, you know, as we got all this migration, people come come down by boats they didn't necessarily know how to do. So you see a little bit of that. But bottom line is people want to be here. They understand how nice it is. But we've also seen over the years that it has a lot of unique challenges, and there have been a lot of efforts to recognize this and to help ameliorate problems as best that we could. And so this was something that when I became governor, we said we wanted to take head on. We wanted to make sure that we were doing all that we could to make sure that we were being good stewards of Biscayne Bay and doing what we need to do to improve the overall ecosystem here. Part of that was in 2020, we did a joint deal with the county, and we each did $10 million. So we pumped $20 million into Biscayne Bay efforts. And then in 2021, I signed House Bill 1177. So this was something that Senator Garcia had sponsored, and what it did was it established the Biscayne Bay Commission to bring federal, state, and regional partners together to focus on the health of Biscayne Bay. So this commission's met regularly over the last year to evaluate programs, identify priorities, and ensure adequate funding for the priorities. And so we've been able to do a lot already with Biscayne Bay, and then today here we're able to say we're going to do even more. So I'm building on our progress that we've made in Biscayne Bay today by announcing an additional 7 awards totaling $22.7 million through the Biscayne Bay Grant Program to support water quality and other protection projects. So since I've been governor, we've now done over $52 million once this award is disseminated for the health of Biscayne Bay. So the projects today, there's money that's going to go to the village of Key Biscayne, Coral Gables, Miami Springs, North Miami, Miami-Dade County, Cutler Bay. And you're looking at things like septic to sewer conversions. You're looking at stormwater management. You're looking at additional wetland restoration. And so these awards are going to help the areas located around Biscayne Bay reduce the impacts. It's a very big, populous part of the state. And so there's just naturally things that you have to deal with. And of course, it seems to be a place that more and more people want to come to. So being able to do some of the things we're doing with this is going to have a lot of effects downstream, and it's going to make the Bay better. So we did over $30 million already since I've taken office to improve Biscayne Bay and water quality. Some of that is infrastructure like septic to sewer, to reduce nutrient pollution and water, improve water quality, also increasing freshwater inflows to protect marine habitats in the Bay. We've used more innovative technology to improve stormwater management and help prevent sanitary sewer overflows, and I know you've seen that in the past. We've also done funding to protect coral reefs, and so we're happy that we've been able to get a lot of momentum. We're happy that we've been able to make a difference. We're going to continue to do that. Of course, this is part of larger efforts that we've done over my 4 years with Everglades restoration. We did $3.3 billion in my first 4 years. That was over doubling what was done in the previous 4 before I became governor. You now have more water flowing from Lake Okeechobee south through the Everglades and into Florida Bay than you've had in the modern Florida history, and we're doing more all the time. We also created the Resilient Florida program, and that was over $1.1 billion so far for projects to fortify our infrastructure and help communities better prepare for the impacts that Mother Nature may throw our way. I mean, you saw Hurricane Ian in Southwest Florida, and the thing that you noticed was you had Charlie in 2004, you had Irma in 2017. Some of the areas that went through that and had more resilient infrastructure, they fared much better. In fact, you look at a lot of the homes, and people down here know because after Andrew, you saw how the building codes changed. You know, some of those homes that were built since that time did pretty well. I mean, maybe you'll have some roof shingles or something, but you didn't see the catastrophic results with that more fortified infrastructure, whether it's somebody's private home, whether it's some of the underlying infrastructure in terms of what goes on with the overall county or city. So this stuff does work, and it lets the communities get back on their feet. I mean, there's a lot of damage that was done, of course. I mean, you have 155-mile-an-hour winds coming ashore. You had major storm surge. Some of those buildings were very old, and they just were not up to specification to be able to handle that. And so, of course, you saw a lot of damage, but you also saw a lot of resilience. Even like these mobile homes and these manufactured homes, some of the newer ones that are built knowing that you could have a hurricane, there were actually some of those parks where the damage, I mean, I thought it would have been wiped off the whole planet, and yet the damage was relatively modest, and some of the places didn't get damaged at all. So this stuff matters. It also just matters that in Florida, we take a lot of this stuff seriously. If you think about with Ian, we didn't know exactly where it was going to end up going. It was kind of a moving target, but you had 42,000 linemen and crewmen that were pre-stationed in the state of Florida to be able to respond to get the power back on. So you had millions of people that lost power, and you had the quickest restoration of any major hurricane because of the preparation. So you had that, you had our FDOT, clearing the roads, making sure everyone could get back in. We had the urban search and rescue. They were coming across Alligator Alley from South Florida to be able to go. It was still like tropical storm winds, effectively, and they were in there in the wee hours of the morning on that Wednesday into Thursday morning, going in, and they did thousands of rescue missions, to be able to help people. And as you saw, that was important because you had two islands, Pine Island and Sanibel, the bridges got knocked out. So you wake up the next morning after that, the causeway going to Sanibel, Long Causeway, it was severed in 3 places. Pine Island was like almost totally washed away. You looked at that, you're like, oh my gosh. And so the people were being told, hey, this is going to take 6 months to a year. You better get off these islands. There's just not going to be able to be help. And even though these were not state roads or bridges, they reached out to us and we said, yeah, we'll help. So we went in there. We did the one bridge, took cognizance of it, produced a temporary bridge in 3 days going into Pine Island. And then on Sanibel, it was a total work of 2 weeks, which was the 3rd week after the storm. They were able to repair all 3 different locations. And so, I'm coming down here, flying over that, looking, seeing, they would have still been severed from that, had we not done what we did. And so that is just a way where, you got to have all hands on deck on some of these things, and we're happy to be able to do that. And the result is, because of that, because of the quick power, but because of some of the resiliency, for a storm of that magnitude, you're going to see the quickest bounce back, I think, that we've seen of a Category 4+ storm. And so it makes a difference. It really matters, and we're happy to be able to continue leading the way on all these issues going forward. Okay, we have Shawn Hamilton is our Secretary for DEP, and then we'll hear from Senator Garcia.
Thank you, Governor. Honored to be here today again to celebrate the progress we continue to make for Biscayne Bay under your leadership and the investments that we're making to protect not just, the bay for today, but thinking about the future, right? Setting a firm foundation so that restoration can catch hold and be firmly planted into the future. So it's been a year, as the governor noted, since the Biscayne Bay Commission convened. And so along with our partners, they've been hard at work. They've developed a suite of efforts that will complement the projects that we're talking about today. But more importantly, it's about working collaboratively with partnerships to achieve a healthy future for our bay. So I want to acknowledge all of the hard work of the local folks here in the county, the cities and the municipalities, and their efforts to work together to do just that. So our federal, state, and local stakeholders came together and compiled a list of over 165 ongoing projects outside of this. And again, that's important, right? Those are projects that are happening now as we speak. And that's that foundation that I speak of that'll set the future, set the stage for a healthy bay in the future. Miami-Dade County continues to work aggressively on a remedial action plan, a remedial assurance plan. The focus of that plan, if you think about it, that is a collaborative, self-administrative process by which the stakeholders here are working collaboratively to come up with a foundation by which they can invest in projects, they can identify solutions, and they themselves, along with our support, can set the path again for the recovery of the bay. Also want to acknowledge the work of the South Florida Water Management District. They are working feverishly hard to finish the Biscayne Bay Coastal Wetlands Project. Again, that is an important project when you think about restoring freshwater flows to Biscayne Bay, but also thinking about improving salinity of those near-shore areas. And so, again, another great project that is being brought to bear by our Water Management District. Again, all made possible by the governor's leadership and setting the environment as his priority day one coming into office. Some of the projects like the governor mentioned today, they're going to convert portions of Miami septic systems. Again, as we know, that is a long-standing legacy problem. It is a large problem, but again, these investments will start to turn the needle on that, and we'll start to see those benefits as we reduce nutrients going into the bay. So, as the governor noted, Biscayne Bay is a treasured resource, not just here in Miami-Dade, but as a state as a whole. It is a foundation that shows how important it is to make sure that we maintain that equilibrium between our built-out infrastructure and our environment that underpins our economy and our healthy ways of life. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but this is the foundation that it's going to take us to move that forward, and that would not be possible without the governor's leadership and, again, making the environment a priority. I look forward to working with the county, our elected officials, our other partners from the Biscayne Bay Commission, again, as we collaborate on projects like this as we look to the future for Biscayne Bay. So, again, Governor, thank you for your leadership.
And I would like to second everything that Secretary Hamilton has said. Thank you, Governor, so much for your full support on what was my commitment, originally coming in as Senator for District 37 and now for District 36. Our motivation is obviously driven by a genuine treasure, which is Biscayne Bay. We all love where we live, therefore we make this a priority. I'd like to give a very special thanks also to the local volunteer groups that go out on the weekends and make sure that we clean up what a lot of people in a very disconsiderate manner leave behind, which is a lot of the pollution that we see on the spoiled islands. That is another one of the efforts that we have ongoing. And I'd like to thank Secretary Hamilton as well, because it has been something that we have put on the radar, something that we are closely working with, along with the Chief Bay Officer for the county, Irela Bagay. Thank you so much, Irela. You've been so wonderful, in continuing the work and the efforts. But once again, singling out these volunteer groups, Clean Up Coastal Corp, also Miami Beach Cleanup, and other efforts that are constantly ongoing because they treasure this treasure that we call Biscayne Bay. Also, Luis Aguirre for always being able to point out in a proactive manner where it is that we're dropping the ball and what it is that we can do better. But once again, thank you so much, Governor, for your help, for your work, and for walking the talk. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I didn't see Charlie. We have Charlie Martinez from the Water Management Board. So thanks for coming. Appreciate it. So we're happy to be able to do this. We look forward to making some more progress with our new legislature. We are going to be doing a special session in December. We're going to be tackling homeowners insurance reforms, which is needed, and we've done some, but we need to do more. We're going to be doing hurricane relief for the property owners who've had their properties destroyed. We're going to forgive those property taxes. We need the legislature to do that. I've delayed it, but I need them to do it, and we will we'll do whatever we need to do to help the Hurricane Ian communities in terms of appropriations or some of the other things. And so I think that it'll be really, really good. We're also going to be pushing all the priorities that we outlined during the campaign. Now, there was more I wanted to outline, but we had the hurricane, we had a lot of other stuff. But, I promised that we wanted to do the 50% reduction in tolls for the commuters. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be working on getting that done as soon as possible because I know that when you have inflation the way it is, that's something that can make a big, big difference for a lot of people. So stay tuned on that, and hopefully we'll have some good news very, very shortly. Okay, thank you. Yes.
Governor, two questions, if you will indulge us. Reference the projects that you're announcing today. Are those new projects with money already allocated?
Yep,
or new
yep.
money?
They are. It's the money. When is it going to be sent, or it is sent now?
It's ready. Yeah, we'll execute the agreements, but it is money that's currently in our budget.
Yep.
So these are new projects
Yes.
designed
Yep.
with that?
Yep.
Okay, number two, the resiliency you're talking about, reference property insurance and the special session coming up. Is there, have you worked with lawmakers at all to give them your priorities and how you want to see the fix go? And how much of this takes a long-term approach, like resiliency, like maybe not building in areas that are more vulnerable, that kind of thing? What's your vision?
Well, so I think that, there's a couple issues that we have. The way I view it is, okay, what is our property insurance situation? If you look nationwide, we have 8% of all claims the state of Florida represents, but we have 78% of all litigation expenses. So that's telling me that you have a lot of lawsuits, and there will literally be cases where a policyholder will get $50,000 award, and the attorney will get $1 million, okay? You are paying for all of that. That money doesn't just grow on trees. And so we've seen that, and we're one of only a few states in the country that allows that type of thing to happen. And so what I say is, okay, where are these other states? How are they doing things? People have looked at Florida, how we're doing right on a lot of things and copying us there. Well, wait a minute. If these other states have more stable insurance markets, it's not just property, unfortunately, in Florida, there's others, and we will tackle that as well. But for this coming, why are they have more stable? It's one thing to say we have more perils, so marginally a premium will be higher here than some other part of the country. That's kind of, you live on nice areas, but you recognize that. But it's the turbulence, and it's companies that got kicked out of the state, and then they try to come, and then we don't have the bet. So what are we doing different than these other states? And so I think we need reforms that are going to make our market look like markets that have been more stable and durable. The other thing that you have is, any company that comes in, they do premiums and whatnot, but they also purchase reinsurance, which is a global market, and that has been tightened. And it's not necessarily Florida specific. So we did something in May, which really, I think you probably would have many more companies going out of business. We didn't, to create kind of an extra layer. We have the CAT fund, we have other things. So we're going to look to see, is there a way to do, they'd have to buy into it. We're not just going to give it away, but can we, since we have such massive budget reserves right now, could we provide a bridge on reinsurance as the rest of our market starts to get better? I think if we had a functioning market, there would actually be opportunities for companies to want to come in here because, you look at like a Miami, these homes that are built, those condos and they can withstand a Category 5. No question they can do it. So the market, I think, would attract, but if they're going to go and someone has a $20,000 claim and the lawyer gets $400,000, that's going to be problematic. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why a lot of companies have said, I don't know that I necessarily want to be in the state of Florida. At the end of the day, for a consumer, you have when you are the most empowered is when you can choose between a half a dozen companies and they have to compete for your business. If you don't have the ability to do that and you get dumped onto Citizens or something like that, well, then the consumer doesn't have really any power. And I would remind people about Citizens because some people say everyone should just go on that. Citizens, if you had that, you had a massive storm, and it's not capitalized enough to pay all the premiums. In state law, it has mandatory assessments for all policies throughout the state, not just homeowners policies, renters insurance policies, automobile policies. So think about it. You could be renting an apartment in Coral Gables and a car that's insured. There's this massive hurricane that hits like the Panhandle. Citizens, if it went belly up, you could get hit with assessments based off that. So we need to have a functioning market, and so we're going to work to make sure that happens. Yes, sir.
Mr. Governor, thank you so much. It's good to see you again. I'm not going to ask you if you're running for president. You've probably heard that one a couple times already. You certainly have your pulse on national politics, and given the rumors that are swirling, I'm curious, what is your take on Mr. Trump being back in the news every day, and what is your take? You enjoy a healthy Republican Party in Florida, but nationally the Republican Party is divided. So can you elaborate for us on those two specific items, national Republican politics, and your take on Mr. Trump being on the news every day?
Well, look,
He's your resident, by the way.
we understand, but I also got 22 million others, and we got to look out for everybody. And so we're focusing on getting things done, doing our job, and that's what we're going to continue to do. I think the election, it was interesting. We knew we were going to do well because we worked hard. We delivered a good message. We had a lot of enthusiasm, and we saw it not just in places like Miami-Dade, which was historic, but place like Palm Beach, which is even more historic. I mean, it's been almost 40 years since a Republican governor candidate has been able to carry that county. And so you see that. And of course, we had a lot of great people running in the legislature and the Senate, and those have been big majorities. And so we knew it. We saw it on even just the early vote came in. We were winning Dade going away. And so they call the race. We see good stuff. It gets into 9 o'clock. I give the speech and I go back afterwards, and some of my folks were like, Governor, this is not a red wave. I was like, what are you talking about? This is not a red wave. This is a 20-point. When have we ever seen that? No. Florida is a big win, but the rest of the country, we are not seeing really good performance from a lot of these Republicans. They're like, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to win the Senate. The House is going to be very close. We assumed we were going to end up with like 245 House members. We're at 222, it looks like, which is a huge underperformance. And so, the question is, why did that happen? Because the way these midterms work, someone gets elected to the White House, and then there's a reaction the other way. That's what happens almost every 2 years, and especially when people are pessimistic about the direction of the country, have a negative view on Biden. Usually those voters are going to want to vote for people that are offering an alternative, and yet some of those voters throughout the country, not in Florida, but throughout the country, even though they disapproved of Biden, even though they disapproved of the direction of the country, they still didn't want to vote, for some of our candidates. So I don't think it's a question necessarily being divided as a party. I think it's like, okay, how do you run and win majorities? And I think what we've done in Florida is we've shown that we've exercised leadership. We've not kowtowed. We've been willing to take on big interests just look at the environment, what we did coming in. Look at what we've done with some of these other things, but producing results, and then that ends up attracting more people to want to be on your team. And so that was not something that was happening, throughout the rest of the country. But I think that we really showed, how it's done in the state of Florida. And if you look about, how we performed, no governor Republican has ever gotten a higher percentage of the vote in Florida history than we got in 2022. So. Yes, sir.
Question, if I could.
Sure.
You talked about Sanibel and the causeway. You drove over a causeway today. Here in Key Biscayne, a lot of people are worried about the Bear Cut Bridge. It could be washed out by a strong Category 2 storm. What kind of action can the state do to shore up bridges like the Rickenbacker Causeway, the Bear Cut Bridge, systems like that would be vulnerable to these massive storms?
Well, if you think about it, first of all, they're always doing those assessments. When the hurricanes came, they're immediately out there inspecting every bridge. Like the bridges don't get opened unless they're inspected. So that's something that they're constantly doing. I would say on the Ian, those were not state bridges, and so those were things that the county had done. That was partially a perfect storm. I mean, you had almost a Category 5, and that was basically those bridges were almost right at impact. So that is something that I think you didn't necessarily want to see that. But I would say this on those: part of the reason we were able to get them up and running so quickly is the most important structures of those bridges actually held. There were other parts that washed out, but the most significant ones, the big pylons in the water, held. And so I think that's something, that's important. So our folks always want to make sure our stuff's good. Now, we lost a bridge in Sally in 2 years ago, but it wasn't necessarily because of the direct impact of the storm. What happened was, you had the storm. It totally would have been able to have been fine with that, but you had someone left a barge that wasn't tied down. So this barge starts going, and the barge rams in to the bridge, and that created damage that was more severe than what a hurricane would have been able to do. So that was a longer restoration effort. But yeah, these are important things.
Every day we see more and more boulders in social media and videos of boulders crashing our bay. What could we be doing in order to have more enforcement?
I'm sorry, doing what?
Trash.
Okay.
Trash in our bay. Boulders throwing the trash in our bay, and we see it in social media. How can we enforce law to prevent that?
Do you want to, any of you guys want to take,
Well, yeah, I'll be glad to. And so I think that's a two-part answer, right? The local presence is important here. You hear the senator talk about the partnerships, the awareness. You see something, inform the officials, identify the problem areas, because some are a lot more intense on their activities than others, and then formulate solutions to attack those areas. Part two of that is FWC is an important partner when you think about our waterways, and so making sure they're aware of those areas, making sure they're engaged, making sure they understand that there's a need to maybe a focused presence. So there are options out there. It's just a matter of creating that consensus on how to approach it. So.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. So good to see you all. Thank you.